Hello everyone, hope you all are doing well at your end. Welcome to day 4 of pre-hackathon speaker session. The Python week is hosting live workshops, talks, discussion, and of course an amazing virtual hackathon, everything from 1st of Jan till 10th of Jan. Moving on the speaker session for today. This talks gave an introduction to students about Tensorflow.JS, which is an open source JavaScript library that allows to run machine learning models on the browser itself and helps integrate the model with web applications. And with that being said, let me introduce you all to our speaker for this session. We have Shivay Lamba joining us. Shivay is an open source enthusiast, Google Summer of Code mentor, MLH fellow, and Tensorflow.JS SIG and community member. Currently working at Darkhorse, a soccer analytics startup, as a lead engineer. We welcome you, Shivai, and looking forward to your talk.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tushar. And I'm really excited to be giving this talk at the Python Week because it becomes sort of really relevant to include these kind of topics because a lot of people might also be coming totally new to Python as well. So this kind of talk will be really good for people who want to get started by implementing very simple and easy to use machine learning based projects with their web applications. And you can actually use this kind of a topic that you learned today at the hackathon itself. So really excited to be presenting this talk to everyone. And in case you have any questions during the live or after the session, I would be on the Discord as well. So you can also reach out for any further queries. So without wasting any further time, I would like to share my screen. So Tushar, if you can, yeah,
Yeah,
okay, thank
sure.
you so much. Yeah. So like without wasting any time, Tushar has already given in an introduction to myself about myself, so I would not waste a lot of time. But just to sort of summarize, currently I'm working at a Darkhorse as a lead engineer, which is a sports analytics startup, and previously I have also been an MLH fellow, a Google Code and mentor at TensorFlow, and I'm also currently a TensorFlow.JS SIG member and also part of the community that represents India. And I've also won a few hackathons and there. So really excited to be talking about TensorFlow.js today. So just to give sort of a viewpoint on why this topic is also relevant from a perspective of talking about in terms of the hackathon as well. So just to sort of give you a brief idea, since all of you who are watching might also take part in the hackathon. So hackathon is basically a timed event. It could be a 12, 24, 36 hour long event where you have to build something from scratch based on a particular theme or based on a particular topic, or let's say some kind of a given scenario. And a lot of times there might be a lot of beginners who might be coming in without having a lot of knowledge on certain technologies. And since you're given a limited amount of time, you have to use that time effectively and efficiently to sort of make your project better. And that is why technologies like TensorFlow.js really come in handy. And we'll talk about the reasons about that a bit later. So this talk is geared towards beginners, geared towards people who might have just started off with machine learning, with Python, or with JavaScript for that matter. And again, like it will become super simple to actually integrate machine learning based models in your web applications after going through this tutorial today. So before we sort of jump on into TensorFlow.js, just to sort of make clear on a few of the topics, for example, what exactly is ML, because we'll be using machine learning a lot today. So machine learning is basically a technique using which a computer or some kind of a program is able to replicate certain, or it's able to actually identify certain patterns, certain observations that it makes on a set of data. And based on the observations, and if it is able to find out certain patterns that might be occurring in the data, it will be able to analyze that data that we give to it, extract the features from it, and then try to understand that, like, what is the background operation actually going on behind. For example, if I were to give sort of an analogy of a calculator based program to a standard C++ program that I write, for example, let's say what is the output of 3 plus 4, we would know that since the operator over here is a plus sign, it would be 7. But in a machine learning based scenario, what would be happening is that we would be giving the output to the machine learning based algorithm. We'll be giving the input, then it will predict what is the operation that goes on, and based on the prediction that it makes, then it can be actually used to predict further outputs as well. So this is like sort of very brief introduction about what exactly is machine learning. Again, like the ability for the computers or the program to actually identify the patterns and then make predictions based on those patterns. And again, what is web development? We all know that today web development and the internet are the most biggest things happening in the IT sector. Almost all businesses, because of the pandemic, went into having a web app or a web presence. And we'll also talk about what exactly is the need for machine learning in web development. So you must have come across this at some point of time, whether it is through YouTube recommendations that you get based on your watch history, whether it's the Amazon recommended products that you get based on some kind of search that you might have made on Amazon or on any other site. Or for example, let's say you are getting the most optimized route between two places on Google Maps. So all of these different applications are using some form or of machine learning or the other. And that is why including like machine learning in web applications is so important, because as I've already said, that a lot of the businesses are moving towards an online and a web-based presence. So being able to actually use machine learning to help make these processes more efficient is really important. And that is why machine learning today is being widely used in a lot of different web applications. So that makes it really important for learning how you can actually include machine learning based projects in web development. Now, just to sort of give you a brief introduction about TensorFlow for those people who might be hearing about TensorFlow for the first time. So, TensorFlow is an open source library for specifically for Python that has been written with its main bindings in C++, but then it has been provided the wrapper around to actually be used as one of the most widely used um, Python based libraries. And it's not just limited to actually Python. There are a lot of other languages that also do use TensorFlow. So there are they have been, for example, bunch of other languages that also do support TensorFlow that has been written natively. So basically, the main motive of TensorFlow is to basically be used for very high intensive and high like a lot of big calculations that actually go on, numerical calculations that go on. So as compared to a standard numerical Python library like NumPy, now there's a really big sort of a you could say a very big sort of a wrong side to it, that in case of very large calculations, a library like NumPy might actually not be very useful, because there might be certain bottlenecks that might occur. So when it comes to actual production grade environment, and there are a lot of different scientific calculations, high intensity numerical calculations that require a lot of processing power, so that is where NumPy actually falls short. And that was the reason why we had to sort of introduce a library like TensorFlow that is used for a lot of production grade, high intensive mathematical calculation, numerical calculations. And it is also specifically really great for being used in various machine learning applications specifically related to deep learning and neural networks. So we'll be coming on to like a bit on how internally does TensorFlow actually work. So as I've already said, that it was originally developed to run large numerical computations because NumPy was not able to handle a lot of them. And basically internally how it actually works is that the data that it actually receives internally is in the form of multi-dimensional arrays. You could also consider them as multi-dimensional matrices, and those those can have n number of dimensions. And these kind of matrices or these arrays that you see are called tensors. So that is why it actually receives the name tensor. And why exactly is it called TensorFlow? Because the flow that actually takes place, it is based on the data flow graphs. In case you have read about graphs, and you would be knowing how information actually flows between the edges and vertices. So that is where it actually comes up. The so sort of the concept of TensorFlow really comes up. That the numerical matrices that actually store the values, and basically the data, how it actually goes from one such kind of a matrix to another, and is resultant in some kind of a calculation. That calculation and how actually the flow of the program is being decided by the data flow graph. So that is why the name TensorFlow comes into the picture. Now, the biggest reason that why we are introducing a topic like TensorFlow.JS. So just to again give a background, I spoke about why exactly is machine learning really relevant to web development, because most of the web based applications are now having an online presence. So that is why introducing machine learning to make these processes or make the user experience better is one of the major reasons why machine learning is being used. And in a typical scenario, when you have to actually include machine learning in a web application, you might have to write a Python based, let's say, a Python based machine learning model, and then you have to deploy that with, let's say, Django or with Flask, and then use that as an endpoint with your web application, with, let's say, your front end that you might have written in React native JavaScript. And that can actually be a bit difficult for people who might just be getting started with Python and who are primarily having their focus in JavaScript. So basically, with TensorFlow.js, as I've already said, that TensorFlow is an open source library. Similarly, TensorFlow.js is also an open source library created by the TensorFlow community working at Google for basically providing easily to run machine learning models in the browser, in giving it native support with JavaScript and Node.js. And we'll be talking about how what are like the different types and how you can actually implement them a bit later. But one of the major use cases is that JavaScript itself is a very popular and a very powerful language, because it does have support for not just running in browsers, but you can also run it in the server using Node.js as a server-side language. You can create desktop applications using it using Electron.js. You can create, let's say, mobile-based applications using React Native. And then you also have support for actually creating IoT-based devices, where you basically Raspberry Pi has a native support for running via Node.js as well. So as you can see, like the support for JavaScript itself is really huge. And TensorFlow.js was primarily made with the intention of providing easy to access or easy to implement machine learning based models in native JavaScript, because a lot of people who might be having a lot of web development experience might not be coming from a mathematical background or a Python background. So for them, just to make it easier for them to be able to implement the power of machine learning based algorithms, machine learning based applications in their projects, TensorFlow.js was introduced. So as you can see, like why it is such, a really huge advantage of including machine learning in JavaScript, because JavaScript is so versatile. You can just imagine that with just one machine learning model, you can actually implement it in so many different kinds of fields, whether it's just browser, server, mobile based applications, desktop applications. With just the help of TensorFlow.js, you can actually have that application running on multiple platforms. And there are actually three different ways in which you can actually use these machine learning based applications that I've spoken about. So TensorFlow.js allows you to use three different ways in which you can actually include machine learning based applications in your web project or in your JavaScript project. So one is actually using native or existing models. So the TensorFlow organization and a few open source organizations have made certain packages and certain libraries that can actually be directly imported and can be directly used. And some of them, like for example, some of them which are quite popular are image classification models, object detection models, body segmentation, pose estimation. So these kind of applications already have pre-existing libraries that you just have to simply you just have to copy their code and include in your project, and it is that simple to actually include in your project. I would like to showcase an example to you for that. So give me just 1 second. I'll share my screen again. So as you can see, like you just have to simply go to this particular link, tensorflow.org/js/models. So you have to just have to go to flow.org/js/models, and these are some of the pre-built models that have been provided to you, some of the pre-trained, because in case you might not be familiar with the machine learning workflow. So usually when you are creating a model, you have to train the model first, then once the training has been completed, then you have to do any kind of a testing. So by using these pre-trained models, you don't need to worry about actually training them, and you can directly just use their code. For example, let's say we want to look at image classification. We can simply just go to this one, and it's actually MobileNet. So MobileNet is again a very popular library. So as you can see, like if you just scroll down, this is like a GitHub link. You can see that basically you can just include like a this kind of a code. So if I were just to go through this code and explain it, basically the script tag where we are actually importing the npm module, like we're including the cdn for TensorFlow.JS. And then if you scroll down a little to this part where it says mobilenet.load, here basically it's loading the model, and then we are just simply using the dot classify function. So you don't have to actually even train or worry about training. You can simply just use the classify function and actually see the predictions being made, because as I already said that these are pre-trained models. So directly you can just use them and use their functionality in your project. So you don't need to know how the training was completed. And just to sort of give you a background on how these were created, so a lot of the popular Python based machine learning models can actually be converted into JavaScript models using something called as TensorFlow.JS converter, that basically converts a machine learning model that has been written in Python into JavaScript based model, which basically creates a model.json and a few other files that help you use them, and then you can directly just import them in your JavaScript function and basically start utilizing them. So a lot of the popular machine learning based models are converted into JavaScript so that they can directly be used. And one of the biggest advantages of actually using these pre-trained TensorFlow.js models is that you don't need to really know how is the training going on behind, or what exactly is the mathematics that is actually going on behind the machine learning model. And that is the reason that you can actually use them, and they are quite popular. Now coming on to, so this is like one of this is the first one, that we have the existing running, basically the existing models. The second one is actually using existing models but then retraining them. So what does that mean is that you would be provided with some existing models that you can directly use, but then based on whatever data that you have, you can actually retrain those models with the help of transfer learning. So for to just to sort of give a very brief introduction on what exactly is transfer learning. So basically ability for one of the existing models to adapt itself to a new set of data, and then modify its predictions and modify its weights, that how internally the weights have been distributed for a data set, and then you can actually use it. So you can actually use existing data sets and existing models and then retrain them over your own data set, and then use that retrained model for making predictions. So that gives you a lot more flexibility as compared to using the pre-trained models, because here you are making the model more specific to your own data. And one of the most popular examples on how you can actually use this is using teachable machine. So the URL to actually go visit teachable machine is teachablemachine.withgoogle.com, and this basically allows you to create your own data set and then run that and see the predictions. So internally there's a like a neural network that is being used, And currently, like there are image based, audio based, pose based projects that are supported. So just to sort of give you a very great, like a very brief example, we will look at an image based project, right? So as I've said that this is using transfer learning in its core. Internally, it has a neural network that has been trained that can be used to actually retrain itself based on the data that you provide to it. Now, in standard machine learning, we have the concept of classes. Classes are nothing but basically group of images or group of data that are having similar values together. They can be classified or can be grouped into one specific group. And we would be creating a very simple, application, basically comparison between a computer mouse and a mobile phone. So let's say we name our first class as a mobile phone. So you can simply just open, let's say if you have images, you can upload them, or you can actually use the webcam. So let's say I am here and I hold my mobile phone and I hold to record. So let's say we take, and again, you have the ability to add as many number of images as you want. Just as a side note, again, a machine learning tip, that in case you have more number of images, the better would be the prediction, because the more amount of data set that you have, the more amount of extractions, or like the features can be extracted from your machine learning model. And so that is why the more amount of images that you do give, it will be better for the machine learning based model with respect to its accuracy. But the one drawback is that the more amount of data that you have, the more amount of training time will actually take. So let's give the second model, let's say we give it a computer mouse, and let's open the webcam again. And this time I would be having this mouse, and then I'll record this slide. So let's say we had around 120 images of the mobile phone. We'll have around 120 of the mouse as well. And if you want, you can add more number of classes over here, but you don't need to, because for this example, you can now start to actually train your model. So what's happening behind the scene is that it is taking the data from the two classes that we have prepared, and as you can see, like it's preparing the training data. So in our case, the training data is the two different classes, class mobile data and class mouse. And now it is actually just collecting the data, and then it will start, as you can see, like it has prepared the data, and now it is actually starting the training. And internally, how it actually works is that, as I've said, that internally it uses a neural network that is being used to make the predictions. So each whatever image that it actually takes, it is understanding, it is going frame by frame, extracting the feature, and then using that to actually classify between the mobile phone and mouse and find out the differences. So as you can see, like the trainings is already completed. And now what you would see on the right hand side is that I have my webcam open, and I have the two different outputs, right? So I have two different classes, mobile and mouse. So let's bring a mobile first, and as you can see that it gives 100% accuracy on the mobile phone. Now let's try to bring a mouse, right? So as you can see, as soon as I bring a mouse, the output shifts towards the mouse. So this is like a really simple way of, like, let's say creating a binary classification. For example, let's say you have a classification algorithm that you want to create, which distinguishes between different types of metals, different types of plants. So you can actually just use this very simple to use teachable machine. And the best part is that once you have actually created this, you can export your model and directly use it. So you can use it with JavaScript, and as you can see that you can download this model, and then simply once you have actually downloaded the model, you have to copy this code. And as you can see, what happens is that when you will actually download this model, you will get two different files. One is model.json and one is metadata.json. And you will just have to download them and include them in your project. And simply, again, you are just using the pre-built functions, like let's say prediction function, and you don't have to write any kind of a model on your own. You simply just have trained an pre-existing model with your own data set, and you can just use that and export this model that you have just created for yourself, right? And just to sort of showcase to you like how internally does it actually work, in case you do have knowledge about deep learning, about neural networks, you can change things like epochs, batch size. I'll not be going too deep into this right now, but if you want to understand more about it, you can go and check out
So I think there is some issue with Shivai's network. Just wait for a while. He will be back soon.
Hello, guys. We are facing a little issue, so our speaker will be back very soon. Stay tuned here and do comment out your questions, and it would be really great, to hear the answers from our speaker. Be active in our chat, and you can ask almost anything. I am here for a few minutes and would be, uh, you know, just entertaining you a bit. So, guys, would you like to have something? Any question for me? So, yeah, I think, okay, Siddharth just joined.
Yes, of course, this is a
So,
virtual event, and yes, we do face network issues everywhere, so it's like a new normal for us, everyone.
yeah, that's completely fine, I think, because
Yep.
I sometimes stuck while saying something.
Yes. So meanwhile, if you have any questions, you can like feel free to ask those questions in the chats, and we'll be answering them.
Yeah, any question about prices, about next filler session? Acha, we don't know anything about next filler session, so don't ask ki what kind of questions will be there. So, कुछ अच्छा
Yes.
पूछो. Siddharth, what do you think? How many registrations we have reached till now for hackathon?
Actually, Deepak, I guess that's a magical number, but I think we should not disclose that right now because opening ceremony should have some that genuine, keen surprise element. Don't you think so?
Okay, our team is saying my mom is in the frame. It's fine, I think. I'm at home. Everybody should know.
Yes, stay safe, stay home, take care of yourself and your loved ones.
Of course.
That tone of your of course was pretty new.
learning English.
Better luck next time.
So after
Mm,
watching the time live, my mom just went away because
yeah,
surprisingly I came up na.
me too.
Guys, comment में कुछ लिखो यार अपने दोस्तों को बुलाओ. It's a very interesting session. You know, Shivay is a great mentor. He has participated in lots of hackathons. He's doing great work, and currently, I am a fan. अगर उसको, if you will ask any question, the answer will be super amazing. So do ask questions.
Yes, definitely. He has got a lot of experience with respect to machine learning, TensorFlow, hackathons. He have won various hackathons internationally as well, Hack MIT. These are the big names in hackathon world, and it's not easy to reach out to that level, and I really appreciate his efforts.
Okay, so yeah, it's completely right, and I think the speaker will be back very soon.
Yes, we just got the update from him. He has just joined us. Yup, he's at the stage connecting. No worries, we are waiting because we value your input.
Hi, Shivay.
Hi,
Yeah, hi.
Shiva.
For some reason, like my laptop just crashed. वो blue
Yeah,
No
screen नहीं आ रही
problem
थी.
at all.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
We got time to chat live. No, no worries at all. You can go ahead with your session once again.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Can you include me back in the?
yeah. You are
yes,
live.
yes, you are live.
You all are live.
Okay, okay, great. All right. Yeah. So I'm really sorry. Actually, for some reason, my laptop just crashed for some reason. Yeah. But anyways, so we were talking about the transfer learning based approach. We spoke about what exactly is the teachable machine, and so as I've already said that with teachable machine, what you can do is that you can use pre-existing models and then have your own training dataset on top of it and use that with let's say for example with your own dataset and then customize it for your own any kind of an application that you might be having. So that is why using things like teachable machine is really popular, and you can actually use them for and that again requires you not to have any kind of a prerequisite uh, um, knowledge about how does that actual model work. But in case you do have, then you can change certain things like the number of epochs, for example, in teachable machine. And some of the more popular examples that were there with respect to let's say with transfer learning, for example with the teachable machine there is an actual limitation that in case let's say you have data size of let's say the number of images that you have are around 10,000, then till then it's fine. But for example, let's say you have a very large data set of images, you might be having more than 100,000, 1 million images, then you can actually use Cloud AutoML that is actually training all your different cloud computer vision or custom vision models specifically with respect to images. It actually has support for training more than 100,000 million images. So in case you want to make a project that has a lot of data set, then you can also use Cloud AutoML. It works very similarly to how the teachable machine also works, but this actually is much better for production environment where you might be having a lot more amount of data as compared to a teachable machine. And then you can also directly just deploy this to TensorFlow.JS because it has the compatibility with TensorFlow.JS as well. So far we have spoken about two different types, but the probably the most advantageous part is that you can actually write your own custom models in JavaScript. So in case you do have knowledge on how machine learning models work, you want to create your own model from scratch, that will give you the most amount of flexibility and independence in terms of creating your own machine learning based model. Then you can either create a Python based model and use a TensorFlow.JS converter to actually convert that into a JavaScript model, or you can directly actually write a JavaScript based machine learning model on your on in your native JavaScript, and then actually use that. So basically, we'll be coming on to how you can actually get started with that. So we basically have two different types of APIs, or namely TensorFlow.js gives us two different types of APIs to create our own models. One is the layers API, that is a high level API, and the other is the ops API, that is the low level API. So just to sort of give you an analogy between exactly TensorFlow and Keras. So TensorFlow is a low level API because that enables you to actually interact directly with the source code of TensorFlow. So in case you want to tweak the mathematical functions that are being used in TensorFlow, you can do that. Or in case if you don't want to go that deep, then you also get a high level API that has been built on top of TensorFlow, like Keras. So similarly, you have basically ability to either use a layers API or an ops API in TensorFlow.js as well, depending on how deep do you want to actually go and tweak the code based on your level of expertise and how much are you willing to experiment with the TensorFlow.js code base. So in case you want to create your own models from scratch in JavaScript, you can either go ahead and use the layers API or the ops API. And this should sort of give you a good example on what exactly is going on behind the scenes. So at the top, you have all your different models that have been pre-trained. So these include like the pre-trained models. Then if we come down the level of the abstraction, then we have the layers API. That is again, like as I've already said, we have either like the Keras based models that can be used with layers API to create your own TensorFlow.js models. And at the core, or at the most basic, is the core or the ops API. And for ops API, you can either use a TF.JS converter to convert a Python based model that you might have created into a TensorFlow JS model, or you can create a model from scratch. And then you can either make it available for the client side or for the server side. On the server side, you would be having Node.js that basically runs on TensorFlow CPU, TensorFlow GPU, and on the client side, you basically have the browser, and the browser uses things like either the CPU, or we also have a WebGL when it comes to any graphics accelerated development that might be happening in your web app, or you can also use WebAssembly. WebAssembly is a very popular again, it's being used for abstraction. So in case you have a project that uses WebAssembly, you can also integrate your TensorFlow.js project with WebAssembly as well. And just to sort of show you the performance comparison between a native Python based machine learning model that has been created and has been running on a CUDA core. So basically, NVIDIA has these CUDA drivers that are specifically meant for deep learning and machine learning based applications. And you have, let's say, a TensorFlow.js running CUDA as well. You can see that the difference between the time that it actually takes for a reference model of a mobile net, it's not a lot of difference. So that basically makes it really great to also use since Node.js is hugely popular. So you don't need to really dive deep into like a Python based model. And then, so in case you had some doubt that whether there's any kind of a issue with respect to the performance, then this should clear your doubt that, hey, like there's not a lot of difference between the performance of a standard Python based model and a Node.js based model. And some of the great advantages of using like the TensorFlow.js models on the client side is, one of the biggest ones is the privacy. Because what is happening is that these models are actually being run natively in your browser. So they are not getting connected to some kind of a server, because usually whenever you're connecting to some kind of a server, you're establishing a connection between your local machine and the server, and that usually results in basically transfer of data, and it actually becomes susceptible to attacks by hackers, or by using some kind of a technique that might lead in actually making your data more exposed. So since all the computation, everything is happening locally on your browser itself, so the privacy is one of the biggest factors that comes into the picture. Then you also have lower latency, because since there's no transfer of data happening between a server and the client side, so all the calculations, all the computation is happening locally in your browser, so the latency is also reduced. And then you have a lower cost because you're not having the server costs being used. And then obviously, like, the reach and scale is something that is increasing, because day by day the server, like the compute power of the browser is also increasing with the help of things like WebGL that help you run more intensive tasks. So the scalability factor is really huge, because everyone who have a computer have access to a browser and internet, so it's much more scalable as compared to using a server. And but again, like, there are a few more advantages of actually using the server as well. So you can use the TensorFlow.JS converter to actually directly just use, or let's say the TensorFlow saved model to actually write your own machine learning model in JavaScript. You just have to use that, and then you get access to npm ecosystem, because npm, if you don't know, like, the node modules have a huge variety of different npm models that you can use in your project, which might not be the most easy to use scenario if you're using them in client side. And then since we have, like, the servers usually have a lot more compute power, so in case your model is heavy, then it's recommended to actually run the larger or more compute powerful models on the server side as well. And since Node.js is based on the just in time compiler, so the processing speed that it actually takes place is much more quicker in terms of the performance as well. So those are some of the advantages of using like TensorFlow.js on the server side. And again, just to sort of give a bit more context on, if you want to get started with TensorFlow.js, you can actually go to TensorFlow.js, TensorFlow.org/js, to actually go and look at different types of models by going to /models. And like, the code is actually available on GitHub. So you can go to github.com/TensorFlow and go to TF.JS. So this is the open source code that has been provided for TensorFlow.js on GitHub as well. So you can go there and look at the code, and you'll also find a lot of documentation and the models. For specifically for the models, you can go to github.com/TensorFlow/TF.JS minus models. So over here you would find a bunch of different models, not just MobileNet, but a lot of more popular Python based models that have been converted into TF.JS. So things like Coco SSD, then Face Mesh, Handpose for, again, like KNN. These are like different types of models you can directly use in your code. Now, just to sort of give you a very simple example of how you can actually use, I'll show you a very simple code that I actually created, and that uses the MobileNet. And in case, again, you want to go ahead and use even a more simpler version, there's something called ML5.js, and this is, you can consider this to be even like a higher level like function, or like a library that has been created for designers who are just getting started with, even for programming. So just think of TensorFlow.js as the low level API. You have something like the ops API as the ops API, then you have the high level API, then you also have something like ML5 that has been built on top of TF.JS, and it provides you even easier manner in which you can actually use machine learning based models in your web. So in the backend, it actually uses TF.JS. And now I would just show you like a demo application that I created. I'll first show you the live example, and then we'll go over the code base. So I'll just start the website. So this was like a demo application that I created for the Python week TF.JS workshop, and this is a very simple mood detector application. So it will, similarly to how we had the TF, I just showed you the teachable machine. Similar to how I showed you the TF, like the teachable machine. This is basically an application to show you. I'll just make it live. This application is just to detect whether a person is having a happy mood or a sad mood. And you just have to simply start clicking on, like, first we'll just click on the train button, and I'll make happy faces first, right? So what you just have to do is capture a bunch of happy faces and capture a bunch of sad faces. So first let's start with the happy faces. Okay, we have let's say we have clicked 20, and then let's click some sad faces. And once you have captured these sad or these happy faces, then you can just click on train. And now what will be happening is that it is creating two different classes, one of happy face and one of sad face. And based on what face that you make, it will actually change the background. So let's say I make a happy face. So as you can see, like currently I made a sad face, and it is actually changing the background. So let's say I make a happy face.
So again, I think there is some network issue at the end of Shivai. So I kindly request you guys to like wait for a while. He will back in a while, and please ask some questions in the chat box so that he can answer you shortly. So
Hi guys, I'm back again to talk to you all. Sorry for the light. Uh, so comment section, we have few questions. I think she will be able to answer it. No worries. Um, Guys, those who have joined, how many have participated? Those who have registered in our hackathon. It is going to be a real fun. Do register if you have not done yet. The registrations are going to be closed on 7th. Yeah, 7th. I guess. Yeah.
yeah, 1 second.
So I think he will be back very shortly. You can experience these things so lately because we are at home. I just got rid of my one eyebrow. Um, क्या ही बोलूं मैं अब? सब यहीं रुके
Share
रहना.
your experience. Share
मेरा
your any
एक्सपीरियंस.
experience being an organizer.
अच्छा, ओके, थैंक यू फॉर बीइंग स्पेसिफिक. अदरवाइज मैंने अभी संतरे खाए. द टेस्ट वाज लिटिल सावर. अच्छा,
Sorrow.
मजा नहीं आया, बस वही था. अच्छा, बीइंग एन ऑर्गेनाइजर इट वाज एन अमेजिंग एक्सपीरियंस. इट वाज, मतलब इट इज करंटली एन अमेजिंग
Like
एक्सपीरियंस.
the proper question is pre-COVID era and post-COVID era. Like what are
अच्छा,
the challenges you are facing right now, which you are not facing at the time when everything was normal.
चैलेंजेस को छोड़ो, मैं तो सबके फेस ही मिस कर रहा हूँ. व्हाट कैन आई फेस अदर थिंग्स, बिकॉज आई लव द इंटरैक्टिव सेशंस. जैसे मैं बात करता हूँ, एवरीबडी वुड हैव नोन कि I love when people are around me. I love when I don't need stage, I don't need mics, I need people to talk to them. So if I am alone here और मुझे यहाँ पे खड़ा कर दिया, then I'll be clueless कि मैं क्या बोलूँ, किससे क्या करूँ, क्योंकि यहाँ पे बस चैट्स आएंगी, यानी कि चैटें आएंगी जो हम बोलते हैं. मतलब प्लूरल फॉर्म. तो
Yeah.
उसमें बात करने में मजा नहीं आता. एंड इवन आई, physical events were far better than this thing. I know it's from comfort of our home we can do this. हमें physically इतनी मेहनत नहीं करनी पड़ती, but physically मेहनत करनी पड़ती थी. But on the day of event, that was the most amazing experience. Even in 2020, you were also the part of it. They have
Yeah,
organized that dev loop, and in this today is the same day on which we were there in dev loop.
yeah, exactly
So,
1 year back.
yeah, exactly 1 year back we were means I was on the stage, or maybe we
And
were
I was
having
in the
some snacks or
audience.
something. Yeah, so I literally miss that part. Otherwise, even lots of people might be thinking I am a new face to the community, but I am not actually. I just spent my 2020 covering myself. Otherwise, I was not enjoying this part. जो ऑनलाइन हो रहा था,
No,
मैं
even
कहीं
you are
किसी
you are the part of events, but you are always on the backstage. You never come in
yeah,
front of it. So that's why
yeah,
us, many of us won't remember the things that you were part of.
yeah, otherwise physical event में तो मतलब हम
I
रॉक
just
करते
need
थे
a
मतलब
mic
it was
and a stage, then everything will be.
everything will be all right. कुछ भी हुआ,
Yeah,
even if the mic is not working, even if speaker is late, even if something happens this way, I was always there. कुछ भी बातें कर लेता, but लोग ही नहीं है क्या बात करें. So you are here, but I am also hesitating to talk to you क्योंकि already हमने इतनी बात कर चुके हैं.
yeah,
फिजिकल इवेंट वाली फीलिंग ही कुछ और थी. ऑलवेज ट्रू, इट इज. ऐसा ही होता है when we really this is new normal. This is new normal, but it's really not normal. It's frustrating right now. At starting stage it was a new normal, but now it's not a new normal. We all hate this. घर पे बैठ के किसको अच्छा लगता है? It's like it's okay. न्यू नॉर्मल बोल सकते
वही
हैं.
वही वही
और
4x4 की दीवारें.
वही ना यार, मतलब सब अपने अपने फोन पे लगे हैं. एवरी बिट नो नो वन इज टॉकिंग टू ईच अदर. अदरवाइज पहले होता था विदाउट फोन्स वी टू सिट टुगेदर एंड टॉक. ऐसी इवेंट में भी मजा आता था. वी हैव सम लॉट्स ऑफ फोटोग्राफ्स ना.
Yeah,
आई थिंक यस रियली ऑफ कोर्स आई एम मिसिंग दोस फीडबैक पार्ट्स. मुझे जब मैं फीडबैक फॉर्म शेयर करता था और जब लोग फीडबैक देते थे ना, द मोस्ट अमेजिंग पार्ट कम्स देयर. लोग वहां पे ऐसी ऐसी चीजें लिखते थे, मतलब आप गोल खिला
you
रहे हो,
like you
जो
yeah
वन.
you don't even expect that thing कि ये भी हुआ था वहाँ.
हाँ, मुझे नहीं पता था. सो sometimes people catch up the tone and start comparing it with the movies which I even don't know
Yeah,
कि ऐसा था. मैंने कभी भी कोई जीओटी की सीरीज नहीं देखी है. People start comparing with some of the characters. It happens sometimes, but मजा आता था, लोग बात करते थे. It was good. I think हमारे एक वेबसाइट पे भी shared है कुछ चीजें.
yeah. So we have
Yeah.
Shivay back.
So he's
Again,
back.
I'm really sorry. For some reason, my laptop today is just, being really picky. It just
No
crashed twice
problem.
during the seminar.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
an issue, Shivay.
Yeah. So as you know, I was explaining. I'll share my screen again.
Yeah, we were
So
actually
if you,
talking about Devloop. It exactly one
okay,
year back.
okay. So if you can share my screen. So I'll not
Yeah.
waste a lot of time and quickly just go over the code. So basically, what I told you about was about ML5.js. So we have used the script. So basically, we introduced ML5.js in our module as a module, and then if you quickly go and look at the three different buttons, right? So we have a happy button, we have a sad button, and we have a train button right over here, right? And then basically we can just go to the JavaScript based code. So the first thing that we'll see over here is that as I said that we are using MobileNet in this project. So I used the MobileNet and I just used ml5.feature extractor. So basically in ml5.js we have this feature extractor to basically use whatever kind of model that you want to call. Specifically, we are using the MobileNet model over here, and we simply just call it, and we start with the classification of our model. So basically, we have two different classes over here. The first one is the sad class, and the other is the happy class. So that is why we are just declaring the variable classifier that will be used to actually classify between different types. And the input for it is the video, because since we're using the webcam, so whatever frames that we receive in the webcam are the input to our machine learning model, specifically the mobile net model. And as you would see over here, we are basically collecting we are basically using document.getElement by id. So whenever we are clicking on the sad button, what it is doing is that it is adding the image of your sad face that you're making while trying to train the model, and including that into the classifier. So and you're also giving it the class name that this will belong to the sad class. And then for example, once you're done with the sad class, you are now including images of your happy class. So it will be adding to the classifier with the token or with the class that it belongs to the happy class. And once you click on train, what happens is that it will look at each and every different image that you gave to it for a happy class or a sad class, extract the features, and then make the distinction between the sad class and happy class. And then once the training period itself has completed, then what we'll use is that we'll use the classifier dot classify function. So the dot classify function will be used once you have to now make a new prediction based on the input that you give to it. So for example, once the training has finished, we'll make either a happy face or a sad face, and based on the features that it is able to understand from the new input that it gets, it will either go into the sad class or the happy class. And then you can change whatever things you want to change with respect to the background. For example, in this case, in a sad class, I made a background of a raining of rain, and in case of a happy class, I basically created a weather and like an image of mountains. So basically what it does is that based on the new data that we give to it, it is able to classify whether it belongs to the sad class or to the happy class, and then it uses that to actually make the prediction and run that specific piece of code in the if statement. So as you can see, like we didn't have to create like a machine learning model from scratch. We didn't have to write any mathematics. We simply just used that dot classify dot predict function. We used over here dot add image, or like the classification just, and using these keywords we were able to create a very simple binary classification project. And again, like if you use things like ml5.js, you can basically create these very simple to use models as well. So that should give you that should give you the idea of what's happening. So that is like all that I had for today. And again, like if you want to connect with me, you can connect with me on Twitter on how to develop, LinkedIn on Shivay Lamba, and you can connect with me on GitHub as well. And in case you need any other kind of help with respect to TensorFlow.JS or how to use that in your projects, you can connect with me on the Discord server as well on the Python week. And if there is time, I would also love to take some questions in case there are any questions right now. But feel free to connect with me on the other platforms as well, and that would be great. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Shivai. It was indeed a great session and had a lot to gain. So now we are open for the Q&A. So let's take some questions from chat box. So Michelle is asking, if we want TensorFlow in JavaScript, we can use ML5.js.
Yeah, so Nishchal, I just showed you an example of a project that was created using ML5.js. Just to again give a very brief background on ML5.js. So ML5.js has been built on top of TensorFlow.js itself, but it provides you even simpler functions to actually directly use in your project as compared to even TensorFlow.js itself. So it is really great for beginners again who just want to get started with machine learning in web. So you can use ML5.js for different kind of applications. It's not just limited to like an image-based project that I just showed to you.
Okay, thank you. So one more question is there, BSOD or what?
I'm not too
So
sure. Like, what is BSOD?
yeah, I'm also a bit confused. What is BSOT? So Anuj is asking how we can implement TensorFlow.JS in upcoming hackathon. Shivai, I think again we are facing some network issue from Shivai end. So
So guys, पता नहीं मैं कहाँ से आ जाता हूँ ऐसे सिचुएशन में आगे. So actually, um, ठीक है
I
भाई.
think it's end only. So should
Yeah,
I wrap
it's
up
the
or
end. No, no. Let us wait
wait
for,
for him?
because yeah, question is important. Um
Yeah,
that was really a good question. That how can we implement TensorFlow.js in upcoming hackathon? Because people want new ideas, and it would be great if they could hear from the speaker itself. It will be
yeah.
good. Uh,
So
yeah, maybe facing blue screen error. Yeah, maybe. I think you
he
know
can't
what
say
is
anything.
happening.
Yeah,
Oh
I
yeah,
just
he's
he's
joined
back
again
my
back.
again.
for some reason. I'm not too sure like what's happening.
No problem at
My
all,
Not an
Shivai.
laptop
issue,
probably might
Shivai.
have just
Uh,
died.
Not an issue. So the last question was how we can implement TensorFlow JS in upcoming hackathon.
Yeah, sure. Like one of the biggest reasons why we spoke about this topic was that for a lot of people who might want to use, like, let's say, TensorFlow or machine learning applications in their web application during a hackathon, because again, it's understandable that when you're creating a Python-based machine learning model from scratch, it can actually take some time. It's definitely a time-consuming process if you were to actually start with making a Python based model from scratch. So that is where in case you already have created or some kind of an open source variant of a Python based model, you can convert that into a JavaScript model using TF.JS, or you can use one of the pre-existing models that are already provided to you, or you can use, as I've already said, the transfer learning approach, and you can use all three of them. So you can use pre-existing models, you can use transfer learning, or you can write your own models from scratch as well. And that, like, you can just use in these models in your web-based projects.
Thank you, Shivai, for answering the question. So as you know that all participants are not live right now, but we surely gonna upload this video on YouTube. So I just want to ask you one question. Is there
Yeah.
anything would you like to suggest to our audience for upcoming hackathon? Like, as you know, we are organizing hackers for, sorry, Python Week.
The Python. Yeah. Yeah, sure. So one of the biggest, motivation that I can give to the audience is that just don't, get intimidated, because for a lot of you, it might be your first ever hackathon. Just make sure that you participate for the experience of learning a new technology, and you want to actually implement something that can help solve a social issue based on whatever topic that you're figuring out. So even though you might not win, there will always be mentors around. So in case you ever get stuck, just don't overthink about that. Always ask for help, because it's usually like a lot of people who are starting off with new technologies, it can be very difficult for them to implement it at first. So always reach out to the mentors for help in case you ever get stuck, and just keep everything simple. Enjoy yourself, because hackathon is a learning journey. It's not like an exam that you're giving that it will make you stressful. So just take part in these different workshops that we are organizing, and learn as much as you can from these workshops, and try to implement that in the hackathon.
Thank you, Shivai. These were some very valuable suggestion. It would be great help for the hackers. So thanks once again for joining us today. So now, also do fill the feedback form shared in chat section, and it will be only used to assign the certificate for this session. It will be only open for 15 minutes and won't be reopened again. Thanks a lot everyone for joining in today. Keep an eye on our social media for next session and don't forget to subscribe the channel so that you can get the update for all the workshop coming up ahead. Stay tuned. Hope to see you in the next session. Stay safe. Take care.